What is up, everybody? Welcome back to Drake's Takes. It is 420, so happy 420 day to you if you celebrate that kind of thing. Not much of a smoker myself, but hey, you can enjoy the day and the marijuanas if you're into that kind of thing. I am your host, Drake Riggs, your resident MMA hipster here at the Body Lock, and we are getting into plenty of more fun topics as we generally try and like to do around here on good old Drake's Takes with me. So let's just get right into it, you guys. Let's look at the lineup. Today, we will be discussing the bubbles. And by the bubbles, I mean the way that some promotions have handled the pandemic situation and coronavirus, kind of restrictions and what have you. So UFC bubble, quote unquote bubble, the PFL, brand new thing they're going there, boxing, and these are a mixture of my own experiences and whatnot. And I thought this would be a good thing to get into as it is UFC 261 fight week, and I will be there leaving tomorrow. This is recorded on 4/19, so right before 4/20. But we're all in spirit here, so going to look into that a little bit. And then next on the lineup, we have Nobuyuki Sakakibara's travels, because as many of you who follow him will have noticed, he was stateside. What was that, last week? So going to look into that a little bit and kind of maybe calm people down a little bit. Everybody likes to jump to conclusions a bit, but we got to be realistic, you guys. And third on the lineup, sticking with a little bit of the RIZIN theme, Manel Kape, former RIZIN bantamweight champion, has come to the UFC. He's had 2 fights already. Unfortunately for him, 2 losses. Going to kind of look at why this may be happening and what has happened to Manel Kape in the UFC. And last but not least, we're going to talk about the just ridiculousness of the Lee family. And I mean that in the most positive way possible. Christian Lee, Angela Lee, Victoria Lee, plenty more Lees to come for the future, but they've already had an incredible run in MMA, and we're going to kind of just not break it down, but just look at it, what they've done, and appreciate it a little bit, because it's pretty nuts when you guys, when you really look at it, you guys. So, all right, enough intro. Let's get into things officially here. As I mentioned, first on the lineup, we have bubble talk, pandemic stuff. I know it might not be the most interesting for you guys, but we won't drag it on for too long. But it's interesting. It's very interesting to see how these promotions, these 3 that I want to look at here in particular, have kind of handled things, and just seeing how it has all played out. So first of all, let's start with the UFC and what they have done so far, which admittedly hasn't been very much. So, well, excuse me, it's half and half, because Fight Island, legitimate bubble, excellent job there. Everybody is straight up stuck in this pocket of Fight Island, Yaz Island, the area over there. When they go to Fight Island, that is legit. They have it. It's pretty much as bubbly as you could make it be, unless you're Dana White, who gets to go outside of that and do whatever he wants when he's filming his shows. So that is good and a legitimate bubble. As for Vegas and what we have seen, before we move on to Jacksonville, and Texas, where there will be not that. In Vegas, they have. So I covered UFC 259. So that was the first one I got to do during the pandemic. And when it comes to bubble type restriction protocols, safety measures, what have you, upon arrival, you get your COVID test, right? Everybody does the testing all week and all that, but there's not really anything for media people. I can only speak for media people, right? Because that's the section I was in. We didn't have to stay in a certain area, right? It was just get your test when you get there right away if you want to do stuff. Makes sense. And then you have to self-quarantine, take care of yourself, kind of the what's the phrase? Not the trust factor, but obviously trusting you to be responsible and take care of yourself that way. Don't have to keep you in anything. But until the Friday before Saturday, which is when the events are, which is when you then have to quarantine in the hotel provided by the UFC. So That's the only bubbly part about it for media people. And then when it comes to the fighters, as far as I know and what I've been told, once they get there, they're kind of, I mean, not stuck in the fighter hotel, but, and I say not stuck because we have seen them on like on the embeddeds, for example, getting to leave and just wander around kind of freely Vegas for the most part, you know, but if there is a bubbly area for the fighters in Vegas, it would be the fighter hotel. So not nearly, not even close to as strict as Fight Island, from what I've been told. I haven't been to Fight Island, but if we're going to do that comparison, right? And then as for Jacksonville and Texas coming up here, sounds like Jacksonville's safety measures, despite Florida not having really any shits to give about it anymore. You know, the UFC encourages masks to be worn. Weared. I almost said weird. Come on. Even though it's not mandatory. So that kind of stuff still happening, but it sounds very similar to, I think we're going to have to do the hotel quarantine again on Friday night, but we will see how that goes. I'm pretty sure I have an email and I'm just not remembering. Been crazy. Still got to pack up my stuff and all that, you guys. So yeah, that's what the UFC's been doing. There's that. Then I find it interesting where you move over to, well, I guess I should add, we've seen a lot of Vegas fights fall out because of people getting sick. It happens. It's just the way it goes when you're not, you know, very very strict about things. But hey, they've kept on keeping on. Kept on keeping on. We'll go with that. As for a promotion like the Professional Fighters League, the PFL, which hasn't done anything whatsoever, no fights at all until what, the first event isn't this week. What is it, next week? First event's coming up. That's the point. PFL going to be starting back up here. Been forever since we've seen them. And they're doing 17-day quarantine for the fighters. 17. That is more than, you know, international travels. I believe, for example, Japan. If you go to Japan, you have to quarantine for 2 weeks, 14 days. PFL playing it extra safe here with, you know, adding on the 3. So everybody had to get to wherever the PFL fights are taking place. I don't even know where they are. I'm interested in the season, but I don't know the location where their kind of home base is going to be. Is it Georgia? Are they going the same route as Triller is? I do not know, but let me know in the comments below, you guys, and I will check after this. And this isn't live, so I don't even know why I'm saying that. But anyway, point is, very safe, you know, route to go with 17-day quarantine for the fighters and everybody else involved, coaches, cornermen, everything separated too, not in the same room even, which I believe that's generally how everybody does it anyways when they quarantine. At least they should, even if you're together all the time, yada, yada. I know Bellator kind of did it that way as well. So yeah, I don't know about their bubble situation exactly, but when it comes to quarantining, that's how they're doing it. And when you have that format where all you do is tournaments, it makes some sense. You know, it makes pretty good sense for them to do it that way. So yeah, interesting. Very interesting, I think, just compared to, that's the longest quarantine I've heard of anybody putting in place. You know, because we look at international travel and whatnot for the length of that stuff, I would say. So then after that, we look at another personal experience of mine, which was covering the, oh goodness, the PBC Premier Boxing Championships in October on my birthday for the Gervonta Davis versus Leo Santos fight. Was it Leo Santos? I'm not big into boxing. I just covered the event, you guys. I'm an MMA guy through and through, but I went and covered that one very last minute. I was only there for about 3 days, San Antonio, Texas. Didn't get to see anything except for the inside of my hotel room and the Alamo Dome. So that part was cool, but didn't really get to see Texas at all. So yeah, as for that was a absolute bubble situation. So you, once arriving, you get there, and then it's pretty much you're in there. You were stuck in the hotel for the entire fight week. I believe, I wasn't there for the whole fight week. Got there on Thursday, I believe it was Thursday. So I was only there Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So yeah, get there to the hotel, quarantine right away, do your test, yada yada. Same as everybody really has to. All promotions, I mean. Then you're stuck in the hotel. You cannot leave, and if you do, you cannot go back in. And you were even restricted to the floor. Like they had the entire floor, off, limited off for people. It was very interesting to see how like this section of the hotel was reserved for the boxing event stuff, which, hey, if you want to make a bubble, that's the way to do it without so stuck in the hotel, and then you could only go to and from the event stuff that was happening, weigh-ins. I didn't get to go to weigh-ins because I had to quarantine for the full Friday. It was the full Friday, and then yeah, you can only just go to and from stuff. That was pretty much it. It was just completely, you're here. Sorry about that. You are here or you're not. If you want to be here and do what you're doing, you are gonna stay here. You're gonna be safe. We aren't having any issues whatsoever. And it turned out good. No issues resolved. It was boring as shit to just be stuck in, hotel rooms and whatnot. But to and from Alamo Dome, you're in or you're out. So that was legitimately a bubble feeling. Felt like you were isolated, people in their hazmats and all that stuff. That was obviously months ago, so it was kind of worse than the other two that I was just mentioning. But it's just interesting, I think, to see the handlings of things. In particular, one of the biggest sporting organizations in the world. Is that going too far? At least in MMA, obviously the biggest, the UFC, and how they have done things compared to the others. And I'm not knocking them. I know that's an easy critique to have. I'm not trying to say anybody's right or wrong in this situation. I just wanted to compare for right now. And I think it's interesting to look at, what's worked out best for everybody. Obviously, the UFC is doing just fine in terms of putting on fights, all that good stuff. And then that boxing event was, I can't imagine it wasn't successful. That was, I'm not, like I said, not really into boxing whatsoever, but that was a great event. I don't think there was only one decision, I think, out of like 6 or 7 fights. And the main event, one of the craziest fucking uppercut knockouts you'll ever see, especially in boxing. I thought anyways, like I said, don't watch very much boxing, but Gervonta Davis just murdered a man. And that was like, at the time, the biggest crowd back in since things all shut down. There were 9,000 people in the arena. I don't remember the specific number. It was like 9,300 something. Damn near 10,000. This was 5 months ago. Not good at math. October 2020. Right at the very end of it. So like start of November. But yeah, very insane to be in that atmosphere after all this time, being just so isolated. So it was like, yeah, okay, we're leaving the bubble to go to a rave. Like everybody, it felt like that place was full, even though it wasn't. I don't know how much the Alamo Dome holds generally, but damn near 10,000 people on that night. So yeah, that was fun. Okay, so to move on now to the next matter of business, whatever you want to say. Nobuyuki Sakakibara, the man himself, the founder of RIZIN, the founder of Pride, one of the most influential, important figures in MMA history, if we're going to be totally honest. The man did some traveling this past week or whenever it was. Let me look at the dates. I got it up here. April 10th was when he was there. Was that last week? Okay, kind of a little bit 2 weeks ago-ish, but either way, Sakakibara-san did some travels to the U.S., went to Las Vegas and Florida. What is it? Coconut Creek. That's where ATT is. And, potentially other cities, areas down in Florida, So why are we talking about this? Why did I want to mention this? Well, obviously, probably the big number one reason to point out is the fact that Sakakibara took that picture with Dana and Floyd Mayweather, two very interesting people to be seen with. And Dana, the first time that he's seen him in 15 years, according to him, which that's pretty crazy. That's a long time to have not seen each other, but it makes sense. When are they often in the same area, country, like, yeah, that makes sense. As for Floyd, if you kind of know what's going on there. So very interesting from a just blanket view, or looking at it directly without any additional, I don't know, delving into it. But when people first see that, it triggers off all these things. Oh, wow, they're going to come together. Dana and Sakakibara working together. Floyd, is there going to be some kind of cross-promoting crazy thing? Henry Cejudo is yapping off, which adds so much fuel to this, which is just no, just no. So when we're looking at this case specifically here, Sakakibara, I believe he said this, and I do have his tweet up, so I should look at it. He was there with Floyd negotiating Floyd stuff, and Floyd invited over Dana just because, which that I'll admit, that is interesting that he would do that. And why I'm not signed in on this for my translate to work, but here, I'll pull it up anyway to be accurate for you guys. Here, I want to see exactly what it says. When I was having a meeting with Mayweather, I was surprised when Dana appeared, when I was told I have a guy who wants to see Sakakibara. So I'll call you by phone. It's been about 15 years since I met him again. He's one of the guys I wanted to meet back in the industry. Something may be born by chance. He teases you. So he does tease you. I didn't remember that last line. All fair play to Nobu on that one. But the thing is, if we're going to be totally honest, you guys, everybody wants to say, oh, shit, are they working on Cejudo versus Mayweather? McGregor versus Mayweather too? All this insanity. When, if we're going to be real, of course that is possible. That is definitely possible. But I don't think it's likely. I do not at all think it's likely because, one, Sakakibara and Floyd already worked together in the past just for their own RIZIN stuff. Of course, RIZIN 14. Yes, it was RIZIN 14. Tension versus Floyd. No brainer there. Then, what many people did not really realize, understand, know what was going on with the whole thing. Understandably so. Not much info about it. Still isn't. Mega 2021. This event, this combat sports event, which that's really the only info you can label it with. That was supposed to take place in February in not the Tokyo Dome, but it was going to happen in Japan, right? Floyd was expected to be a part of this in some fashion, and likely still will be if it ends up happening. And Sakakibara is a part of this collaboration too. It's not like his thing. Mega isn't, it's not like a new promotion. There's so little info to really know, at least from what I've seen. I think generally most other people have seen too, but Sakakibara has his hand in this cookie jar, as does Floyd. Going to work together, figure something out. What happens? Floyd then says he's going to box Logan Paul. They're going to box in an exhibition match, which is supposed to take place like a week after Mega 2021's original scheduling. That's in Japan, and the Logan fight was going to happen somewhere here in America, I believe. Nope, that's not good. That's Floyd doing his Floyd stuff. So, neither of those things happened. Surprise, surprise. So now, get back together, see if they can work something out. RIZIN 28, supposed to be now the big Tokyo Dome event, which takes place on May 21st, I want to say. My calendar is right here. 23rd, excuse me. RIZIN 28 is on May 23rd. Supposed to be the big Tokyo Dome show. A little bit in trouble now as of this moment because of COVID cases not getting better. The last I saw, that could have had something to do with it. But again, I think what is for sure anyways, if we're going to talk about the certainties of what is actually happening, potential additional things, I will give you that. But the most likely main thing was to figure out what we're going to do about this Mega nonsense. Are we going to make it happen still? Who would you like to fight? Like all that kind of stuff. Would you even want to fight? You just want to be a part of it, help out, yada, yada. Just those little business things. Get this event back going however you can. Who knows? Maybe I was going to say something to totally tease. I'm not going to do that. So yeah, there's that aspect, the Vegas part of things. Working on stuff with Floyd, primarily, I believe, mostly for Mega. So there could be other stuff involved. Dana wasn't originally a part of that. I trust the word of Sakakibara in that case. I know it's not smart to maybe trust promoters like that, but when you just look at the history of things and how it all fits together, the puzzle, I don't know, you know. So that's the Vegas part, right? All right. Then we jump to Florida. Sakakibara going to Florida, visiting ATT, his champ, Horiguchi, going in there. Looked like he trained a little bit, actually. You know, what has he got a picture of him looking sweaty, doing some doubt he sparred with the champ, but no, he's in some casual clothes there where, oh, it was Horiguchi was sweaty, who's probably just got done training or something. Maybe checking him out, you know, just why not? So yeah, he was there for a little bit. That's undeniable. Most likely working on who he will fight in the meantime while the bantamweight tournament goes down, whether that is against the Bellator champion, Archuleta, and Archuleta / maybe Sergio Pettis, depending on what happens in a couple weeks, or just another fight in the meantime. We've seen RIZIN champions take on, do non-title fights many times in the past. Horiguchi's done it before. That was the first Kai Asakura fight. So they're just figuring out a fight, at least. Talking about some stuff and, you know, maybe looking around a little bit elsewhere as well, maybe for the opponent. Who knows? That's open to speculation. I've seen rumors of Josh Barnett for some reason. Like Sakakibara went to Florida to talk to Josh Barnett, even though I don't think Josh Barnett lives in Florida, of all places. And he is still currently a Bellator fighter, as far as I know. Not that that would prevent him from fighting in RIZIN, but I think we will see him fight in Bellator before RIZIN. That would make sense. If he fights again at all. You know, Josh has got his blood sport wrestling stuff going on and all that. But as for why Sakakibara was in Florida, primarily checking out the champ, see what's going on with him, what they can do next. We don't know if any communications happened with Coker or Bellator. I would imagine maybe. I mean, Coker obviously not in Florida right now because he's up in the casino for the Bellator events, but that's obviously a likelihood there. A random other fight, which, you know, there could be something to that. But then there is the other part. Like I said, Josh Barnett, potential free agents. I do believe Sakakibara was also down there to maybe negotiate with somebody to bring into the promotion. But again, when it comes to free agents, or not even free agents, but having international fighters compete for RIZIN in this current climate, just not very likely, because the risk outweighs the reward for them in terms of, you know, the coronavirus, these international fighters coming and testing positive, ruining things up a bit, not only for themselves, but maybe the promotion, other people. It's just too much of a potential and just headache, I think. You know, not quite going to be worth it when they're doing fine. They're doing fine with the domestic fighters in these current times, you know? So it's like, should we really do this? Yeah, it would be awesome to get back to the old ways, have people going back and forth again, but for them, it's not ultra necessary, I don't think, at the moment. Like, yeah, there are plenty of new free agents we would love to see compete under that rule set, but maybe it can happen. It definitely is possible, but when you just look at the price of some people, what they will want to compete in RIZIN, and the times, what is happening right now and how difficult it is for that to happen, just combining those two things, it makes it just like, is this even worth it? We can wait maybe. And that might sound rude. Everybody should get paid and all that stuff, but it's just the reality of things. You don't want to potentially really fuck over your promotion. So yeah, those are all the points, I believe, and reasons that we saw Sakakibara on his trip. And we'll likely get some news soon on some things, especially with the events coming up, 28 and 29, RIZIN 28 and 29, that is. And as much as I would love a US RIZIN show, I am not so sure about that. And I haven't really seen anybody saying that, but that's a whole different animal. And I guess I should mention this too, as let me translate it real quick. But Steve Aoki, he also went to go see, which that could be your guy. He's not fighting, so that I guess I feel like it would still apply to him. Anybody involved with coming in, I don't know, but Sakakibara says, I met Steve Aoki, a DJ who was active on the world stage. This is via translation, of course. Steve Aoki was from Linkin Park, right? I very much enjoyed Linkin Park in their early days, as I'm sure most people did. He was connected to them in some way, right? And this might be stupid of me to even say, because I know that, who am I thinking of? He's not a part of this. I don't know why I thought that. It was Shinoda. It was Mike Shinoda. I guess I get them confused. I guess that's what happens to me in my brain. So he was Steve Aoki. I have no idea what Steve Aoki is a part of then if it's not Linkin Park. I met Steve Aoki, a DJ who was active on the world stage. In order to make RIZIN more entertaining, we have made a promise to cooperate with the transmission to the world. You'll be performing at a big event this year. Gotta be Tokyo Dome. You see interesting videos, so please check out Steve's Instagram. So there's a cool thing. That could have been it. It might not even have been a fighter. Maybe that's the person of interest here. We'll label them as that for Sakakibara. I don't know if Steve Aoki lives in Florida. I would imagine he was there, obviously, at the time of this. Maybe that was Vegas. Either way, it was one of those two places, of course. But man, the boss man had a great time. You can just tell he never posts that much. Really enjoyed this trip. So, good for him. Good for him, and hopefully some more exciting things in general for RIZIN. It's always exciting with them, if we're going to be honest. So, yep, that is Sakakibara's recent travels, you guys, and how I feel about them, which, if you guys have any thoughts as well, I am all ears, even the most ridiculous of things. But just remember, I think that we got to be realistic, especially during these times. And I know that is hard. I completely agree, but it is what it is. It is what it is. All right. And now to continue a little bit with the RIZIN theme, we're going to talk about Manel Kape, Starboy. Who doesn't love Starboy? And this one was actually per commenter request, Manel Kape. So appreciate you, sir. Interested in having some discussion, and I'm always happy to talk about whatever you guys might want to talk about as well and get some thoughts on, because as much as this show is literally only what I want to talk about, I am curious to know what you guys want to hear about as well. So, I like to be a man of the people, and here we are talking about Manel Kape, his run in the UFC so far. Incredibly disappointing, and I don't know if that is necessarily his fault. Let's just get right into it. Manel Kape, former RIZIN Bantamweight champion, 0-2 now in the UFC since joining beginning of this year. I mean, he signed last year, but didn't get to fight. Had like 4 cancellations or something crazy. Poor guy just could not get in there. Was even the backup fighter, the replacement for Figueiredo and Moreno. Like, big respect, well deserved, coming in as a top, I want to say 7 bantamweight in the world, in my opinion. Now he's a flyweight and just cannot pick up a win so far. Yes, he fought twice in relatively short time on that second one, but let's look at it. So I think that you very well could argue, that he should be 2-0, or at the very least 1-1, at the very least. So I did not score that Pantoja fight for him. I think it was close enough to where you could, but it wouldn't have felt great. It wouldn't have felt great. Just like the Nicolau fight, which he lost via split decision in March. And I did score that one for Kape confidently. But that one was very fucking close as well. And I know that a lot of people felt that was one of the worst robberies this year. And I don't think that close fights are ever robberies, really. You can have close fights with clear winners. I am a strong believer in that. But at the same time, I don't know. That one didn't feel like a robbery to me. I think it came down to about the last maybe 30 seconds or so, the last minute for sure. And here's the thing, though, right? Kape shouldn't be that competitive with Matheus Nicolau. No disrespect whatsoever to Nicolau, but looking at what Kape has done in his career to this point, that should not have been that close to where he loses, right? A split decision, no less. So that's kind of the issue at hand here, right? Is that Kape has underperformed. That's just plain and simple. No way around it. But when you look at it a little deeper, has he? And I hate to even ask that question because, I want all the RIZIN fighters to just do well. I'm not going to lie. I want them to go and continue to prove how legit RIZIN is, because people still make fun of them as much as they can, but they're one of the best promotions in the world, top 3, top 5, wherever you have it. I don't think you can go any further than that, undeniably, just when you look at who they have and have had. So Manel Kape at flyweight now, that might be something to look at. I know that everybody likes to talk about ring to the cage, so much difference. Cage to the ring, vice versa. That's a big part about it. And I even saw, I believe it was you, Emmanuel, who brought up this topic to me and to discuss Kape's fall so far. The wrestling shoes, I think that was you. Somebody, I've seen people mention the fact that he doesn't have his wrestling shoes anymore, which I don't think that's it. I don't think that's the problem. That's kind of a small thing to blame such issues with, I think. Yeah, they help, especially for traction and in a seemingly pretty slippery UFC Apex octagon. But again, I don't know about that. But what I will tell you is, having just watched Kape versus Asakura 2 right before this, just to get a feel for like the best Manel Kape that we've probably ever seen in that fight to what has happened now. First of all, let's talk about the ring in the octagon, though. The ring in the cage, actually. Yes, ring ropes in the cage, a lot easier to keep somebody up against the cage, but that hasn't really happened too much in Kape's 2 UFC fights so far. The Pantoja one had some action there, some clinch control against the fence and whatnot. Don't remember too much from the Nicolau one in terms of that happening. But the difference I think here is everybody already talks about how the UFC octagon in the Apex is smaller than anywhere else, right? It's in the UFC. Whenever the UFC goes somewhere else, Fight Island, it's 35 feet. It is 35 feet normally, but in the Apex, it's 25 for whatever reason. Not like they don't have the space. I've seen it myself. They could stretch that bad boy out, but they didn't and have not fixed it. And I don't know if you prefer different sizes. You could. It's weird. It is weird, though, because you think, all right, there aren't some locations where basketball games or football games are played on half field or half court. Like, shouldn't this be the same everywhere? It's weird. It's a weird thing. So when you look at this specifically, Manel Kape's first 2 UFC fights have both been in the UFC Apex in the 25-footer. I have no idea how big dimension-wise the RIZIN ring is, but that son bitch is bigger. The RIZIN ring's pretty big, and I think that probably any enclosure is typically bigger than the 25 in the UFC Apex. I'm assuming. I do not know this for sure, but for example, if we want to look at the Bellator cage again, that thing is pretty much a circle. that thing is huge. That thing is huge. Seeing it in person, like, it looks pretty big on TV, but when you see that thing in person, like, that's a big ass cage, man. And then the same for One Championships cage, I think. I haven't seen that one in person, but that thing is also pretty large. And just the UFC Apex one is smaller. And why I think it's important to bring that up is when you look at Kape's style, clearly in the Pantoja fight, much more than the Nicolau fight, a little bit hesitant, a lot of bit hesitant, a little bit, don't want to say gun shy necessarily, but waited a lot. Very counter heavy approach of sorts, back foot. And then when you look at that Kai Asakura rematch where he won the title, became champion, he actually fights pretty similar. He hasn't changed his style much from that fight to the UFC, but there are all these different factors about it. Bantamweight. He was up a weight class in RIZIN. In a ring. More space. Bigger guys. Maybe he has a speed advantage. Now he's in a smaller cage so far against quicker guys. And when you look at, let's just look at the Kai fight, for example, as the main transition performance to what we've seen now. Kai Asakura, pretty aggressive striker, pretty good dictator of pace. He brought the heat. He brought the heat in that fight to Manel Kape. So that's kind of when Manel flourishes. When you bring that fight to him, he's like, let's go, man. And he throws back, he fires, counters, doesn't generally throw first, at least at his best, right? And then we look at the fight right after against Pantoja, and I shouldn't say right after because it was about a year or so. Pantoja didn't bring the fight to him the same way that Kai did. And what happened? Didn't have very much offense until maybe later on in the fight where he was kind of needed to do that. Kai brought it to him. Kai paid for it. You would think as well that Manel should be mixing in his wrestling this whole time, just regardless, because he didn't really wrestle in much any of these last three fights. But when you have seen it, looks great. It looks great, man. So he might be having a case of, with the Yoel Romero's we could go with, where he's fallen in love with his striking to a point that he neglects his wrestling a bit, and his striking then becomes too counter-based. You know, kind of like, look at Yoel. Exactly what has happened with him. The Adesanya fight for perfect example. And, you know, and then if you want to look at when that works, the Costa fight. And I mean, he didn't win that fight, but he had his moments, looked damn good in some exchanges, got in his face, hurt him a little bit. But again, it's just one of those things where you look at the entire situation of it all and just how his style is typically, because I don't think that it has changed that much. All the other elements around his style, though, are what have led to this. And he should have won his last fight. He should have got the win. Everybody pretty much agrees with that. So let's just, I want to look now at exactly what the tallies are on that one, just because that's always fun, right? If you go to madecisions.com, fantastic website, one of just genius decision to make this website. I don't know the founder's name. I apologize to them, but all right, we got it up. Every media person scored it for Kape, and hilariously enough, there was a smear campaign put out on me that night where they had me on the other side of things. 29-28 for Nicolau is not true. It was very funny. A lot of angry people were coming at me, but they sabotaged me. I did not do that. And then they put me on the other side. So thank you for that, you guys. And it actually happened again this last week. They just have something out against me. But all right, 77.1% had it 29-28 for Kape. Goodness gracious. And 79.6% overall for Kape. Yeah, not very close. Yep, first round to Nicolau, pretty clear, and then the last two. Yeah, the first two obviously most clear for each fighter. But point is, I don't think that Kape has regressed or anything like that. I think that why not just go back to bantamweight next? I mean, that's a good thing to try out because, as I said, maybe the speed advantage there, and just the type of fighters specifically when you look at the Pantoja and Asakura differences in their approaches to Kape. Kape does better against more aggressive guys. And we've seen how he's done in the past against Mizugaki, who finished him. Seichiro Ito, that was a great one too. Yusaka Nakamura utilizes wrestling in that one, got the rear naked choke. That was excellent stuff there. RIZIN 13. Uncle Creepy, see that in that fight, even though that was a weird, kind of doctor stoppage from the cut, went for his wrestling there. Kind of forgotten it, at least in his last four, maybe two. I mean, last three for sure. But since he started knocking people out, just running through them, and not like he hasn't done that before, but like we've seen him use his wrestling a lot more than he has as of late. So it's not over for Kape by any stretch of the imagination, but he's adjusting to the new climate, I think, and just seeing how his style is with certain opponents can be that's a big part of it. So there's a lot that goes into it, though. Now that I'm really looking at it, Emmanuel, thank you for bringing this up. It's very intriguing to see the difference, because let's look at fighters like Yuri and Kanako, for example. Somebody like Kanako, who fantastic wrestler. She's always going to use that. It's her strength. She's not somebody to get away from that, no matter how good her hands get, which I think her striking has gotten very good. If you watched her last fight, she doesn't feel like it. She's that kind of competitor who, and that might be a personality thing as well. You look at Kape, who, not to say he's not a driven, confident guy, he very much is that, but he's very outspoken about it. Kanako, you will not hear a peep about. You will not hear her, like praising, talking herself up a whole lot, like somebody like Manel Kape, who's like, yeah, I'm going to be the champion and knock you out, that kind of thing, right? So a little bit different mentalities there, and I think because of that, we will never see Kanako turn into just striking, forget about her incredible wrestling, right? And that's always going to pay off no matter what your enclosure is, but she's probably better off in a cage, right? And she did just fine in a ring. So there's that. Yuri, that guy is just monster no matter where he goes either. Like, style for those two fighters, I don't think it's going to matter. But for somebody like Kape, who I think his style does feed off a lot of the other person standing across from him, then we see these issues. So I don't know. I think that's about all I can say about it. We're just going to have to wait and see who he gets next and what. I can't imagine him not being incredibly motivated to not lose 3 in a row and not get that very first one in the UFC. Like I said, pretty much unanimously, people will agree that he should have got the win in that last fight. Even though it was very close, I do still agree or want to say that it was extremely close against Nicolau, but it never should have been. From what we've seen from Kape, that just should not have been the case. I say try bantamweight again. Why not, man? Why not? So now let's talk about the Lee dynasty. The Lee dynasty. They're not the Lee family anymore. This is the Lee dynasty. And who am I talking about? Christian Lee, Angela Lee, Victoria Lee now, won championships, incredibly talented individuals with the last name Lee, and they're all related to each other. So why mention the Lee family? Well, because they're pretty insanely good. They're very, very talented. And why talk about it now? Because we are fresh off of Christian Lee's, was it second career title defense? Because he just recently got the belt. Well, not recently, but 2019, recently-ish. Yes, his second title defense of his 170-pound lightweight title against Timofey Nastyukhin at 1 on TNT 2. My goodness. 73 seconds for this man to just pretty much cut through Nastyukin like a hot knife through butter. And if anything, you would have thought that the powerhouse in Nastyukin might have been able to do that, but Christian Lee is really improving at a ridiculous pace. That is 6 in a row now for him. All finishes, all finishes except for the Saigid fight, which was when he won the title. Yes, no, the Grand Prix title. That's right. How weird is that? I totally forgot that he came in like late notice for the Grand Prix tournament after becoming champion. That's very weird, but he won anyway. So hey, he beat himself essentially, right, by winning the Grand Prix title to presumably see who his top contender would be. It was him. How about that? That's how good he is, right? So Christian Lee is only 22 years old. Birthday's in June when he'll be 23. The guy's already 15-3, 10 wins by knockout, 4 by submission. He's only won by decision once, which was that fight I just mentioned there when he won the Grand Prix, and that was on short notice. Holy shit, man. Like, I honestly was never too psyched up or high on Christian, and he's been in one championship his entire career since December 2015. And, kind of not fast-tracked. I mean, a little bit. Martin Ewan in his 6th fight, he ended up losing, but I don't know. I was never super high on him. Then he, comes in there after losing 2 in a row in the Martin Ewan again, just Martin has his number, I guess, in their rematch in 2018. Then after that, the Edward Kelly DQ from the illegal suplex, which I don't really want to talk about that. But I will do a shameless plug if you guys are interested in talking about that fantastic illegal suplex rule, which I'm not sure if that even is still a thing. Check it out here on The Body Lock, but thebodylock.com, the website. We can get producer Jake to throw in the link down in the description below for my deep dive I did on that rule and the ridiculous history of it. I think the title of that article was Assessing the One Championship Suplex Rule, something like that. It was been a couple of years since 2019 when I did that, but I like to think it was a pretty good deep dive. You guys let me know if you're interested in the silliness around that again. And Christian Lee has been a part of that history. So since that fight, a fight that could have been made this 7 in a row, the man has not lost. And just gotten better and better with each fight. TKO'd Kazuki Tokodome, one of the best, most seasoned veterans out of Japan. He's been all over the place. Just most recently fought in RIZIN. I got submitted by Roberto Satoshi de Souza. No shame in that one, but it happens. Tokodome has been in the UFC. He's been just all over the place. And then he ended up getting redemption against Edward Kelly in their rematch right after that. So I guess, who cares about the DQ one? But still would be nice to have. TKO Shinya Aoki to win the title after overcoming some seriously dangerous positions in that first round. Initially, I thought that stoppage was a little bit quick, but hey, that's why I was feeling the way I was. Like, I'm not super sold on Christian. Then he goes in there, short notice, wins the GP title, and then after that, just toys with Yuri Lapicus and then Timofey. I just the way he did that stuff was phenomenal. The guy is very much the real deal now, and I don't know exactly if he can be beaten. Already a black belt in jiu-jitsu. Like, what more do you want? So why I bring this up is it now begs the question, and I had this take that I put out on Twitter right after this fight, was that the Lee family very well could go down in MMA history as the most accomplished family in MMA history. And I know what you're thinking. The Gracies. The Gracies are the best MMA family ever. The most notable, undeniably. The most influential, had the most impact, all of that. But I'm saying the Lee family could be the most accomplished. And what might seem like a hot take right there on a surface level should not be. Because Christian Lee, as I said, 22 years old, all these finishes, already champion, defending like he's prime Anderson Silva. Maybe a stretch, but he's defended very, very impressively. 22 years old. 22 years old already doing this stuff. You look at the other side of the coin. Big sister Angela. Congratulations on the baby, by the way. Age 24. Turns 25 in July. But she's 24 years old. She is still the one atomweight champion. Has 4 title defenses. She is the youngest champion in major MMA promotion history, right? Like the youngest champion of all time. Won the title at 19 goddamn years old against Mei Yamaguchi, who had like triple the fight experience she has. And Mei Yamaguchi is the most unfinishable fighter in, out of all the women. I think that is probably safe to say. You look at that, what these two alone have already done before either of them have reached 25. And if you combine both of their ages, they're not even 50 yet. What the hell is that? They already have all these belts and defenses between them, all these incredible performances. Angela Lee, all of these all-time classic fights, both Jingnan fights. The strawweight champion, who she's beaten, Angela Lee, at least once. They're 1-1 against each other, but both of those fights, two of the best fucking fights you'll ever see. And then the Mei Yamaguchi fight, another one, the first fight, not so much the rematch, I would say, but still beat her again. It's crazy. It is crazy what these two have already accomplished and what more they can possibly accomplish. Like they could just dominate forever. And the only thing that would stop them would be themselves and retiring. And I haven't even mentioned little sister Victoria yet. I have the 16-year-old who debuted, what was it, a month and a half ago or so now, whenever that was. I don't even remember. Everything's a blur these days. Victoria Lee, the younger sister, debuts at age 16, similar to her siblings. They both started very young too, obviously, considering where they're at now. Victoria takes on, what was it, Sinisa Srisem? I believe that was who it was. 5-1, 5-1 or 4-1. Got some experience under her belt. Not the greatest fighter of all time, and a good record for what she's been able to do and for welcoming Victoria Lee, who's making her professional debut right out the gate at 16. You would have thought be a bit more competitive. Victoria Lee goes out there, looks like she's been doing this for a while, and she has. We haven't seen it professionally. It's scary. It's very scary to see how good and how impressive Victoria Lee looked in that fight. And assuming Angela Lee continues to get better than she already is, which is very good, what's to stop her from going up? And yes, she didn't take Jingnan's title in the first fight, and Jingnan's incredible herself. I absolutely adore the Panda. She is very, very underappreciated as well. But what's to stop Angela from at some point, moving back up to try and recapture the strawweight title and doing it? She has so much time. Like that's the thing with all these fighters. They have accomplished so much already. And you could argue, I don't think I'd agree with the argument yet to say that they're already the most accomplished. But man, it's going to be hard to stop them from being that. And there's most likely going to be more Lees on the way. They have a younger brother. Angela just had her child. Christian has a baby coming on the way. I know there's a lot of time left in history to be had, but they've already put their stamp on things very nicely. So what I was getting at, though, was Angela moves up takes the strawweight crown. She's like, all right, I'm not going to fight my little sister, assuming Victoria climbs her way up there, which is very possible. I know the atomweight division looking amazing right now with the tournament that is going to be happening at One Empower. But if she continues to look as good as she did in that debut and gets better off of it, which is a guarantee, unless something crazy happens, she's only 16, they could all be champions. And they could all have many, many defenses for years to come. It's crazy to think about. And I think we should respect them while they're around and appreciate what we're seeing, because that's the thing with this kind of talent is if you're that good this early on and able to succeed this way, why should you actually stick around for another 10 more years? Make your money, put your place etched into the history books, and get out. You know, like if they defended 5 more times, which, you know, that's a good amount, right? But if each of them did 5 more fights or something like that, that's good. You know, maybe even less than that, and you could be like, all right, we're golden. I've already been around for so long, but to do that, like just break the records and those initial records just to get past it, and I don't even know, man. It's gonna be fun to watch though. It's all this Lee action. They're just so fun to watch. It is incredible talents. Like, just must be a family thing. So yeah, felt like that was worth pointing out. You guys give some love to the Lees. They are one championship at this point, and it would be amazing to see them go to other places, but they don't need to. They are set for life, all of them, and history in the making, I believe. And we've already seen history from Angela, like I said. So, yep. All right. That I think is perfect. You guys got around this hour mark, which is all I needed, because I am running short on time because I still got to pack and all that stuff to get ready for UFC 261 Fight Week in Jacksonville, Florida. Oh boy, gonna be something. If you guys would like to follow along with my coverage, please do so over at SCMP MMA on the YouTube channel and all that good fun stuff. Follow me at Drake Riggs _ on Twitter, as you see below there. But of course, continue to follow with TBL here, The Body Lock. Going to be uploading plenty of videos. I'm sure the guys will be throughout the week. I might be in some of them that haven't dropped yet that we've recorded from later on and all that, but I'll mostly be busy on the scene, of course. And yeah, just keep up. Tune in with all the good stuff. Appreciate it so much, you guys, for your interest, not only in this show, which means the world to me, but the channel in general, all the stuff that we're all doing. I think it's great quality work. Of course, I'm going to say that, but, you know, it is what it is. So don't forget to like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell for more, not just from me, but all the other guys. And yeah, until next time, you guys, enjoy this awesome fight week. Hope you enjoyed your 420, as that is when this video should come out. And if it did not, hope you enjoyed it yesterday or whenever it was. So until then, I'll see you next time, you guys. Thanks so much for checking out Drake's Takes. Bye-bye.